Hi there, my name's Damien, and in today's demonstration I'm going to show you how you can add a comment to a Microsoft list item using Power Automate. So comments are an out-of-the-box feature for Microsoft lists, but there isn't an action currently in Power Automate that allows you to add a comment. So we're going to use the SharePoint REST API in order to post a comment directly to a list item. Now if that's something that scares you, I'm going to include everything that I require today in the description below, and hopefully it's something that you'll be able to easily replicate and try yourself. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into my demonstration. So here we are on my SharePoint list, which is my issue tracker, and we can see that the last list item that I have created here has a comment already saved. Now, if I click on that icon, it will bring up the comment history, and we can see here that I've tagged myself to take a look at this. Now, the consequence of me tagging is that an email is automatically generated without the need of any Power Automate flows to highlight the fact that I have been tagged in this list item, and it provides a link straight back into this particular item. We're going to use our Cloudflow to replicate this process and add a comment and mention me as a result of that automated process. Now, if you're interested in the SharePoint REST API, there is plenty of documentation online. I'll drop this link above into the description, and again, you can go and have a read at your own leisure. So into our Cloudflow, I've decided to go with when an item is created. And my use case is such that every time an item is created on my issue tracker, I'm going to tag myself. Now, I do have a status on my list here based on a priority. I could put in place a condition so that if there was a critical item that was logged, then I was tagged in the comments in order to highlight and escalate that item quicker. But for the purpose of my demo today, all I'm going to be doing is adding that comment. So you can see when an item is created, I've included my site address and my list name, and then on to the new step. And it's simply searching for the SharePoint HTTP action. So we select this action here, and then the first thing we need to do is select our site address, which is based on where that list is located. Then the method in order to post a new comment to that site is in fact post. Nice and easy. Then when it comes to the URI, like I said before, I will paste these into the description below. We use the following endpoint. And the two things that I need to highlight are these two values that are in bold. Now these are the things you need to pass the endpoint in order for it to know where to post. So the first one is based on the list name, and all I'm going to do is manually supply that, copy out the name of my list from above, and paste it in between these single quotes. When it comes to the item ID, I'm going to use a dynamic value. So you can see here, based on this trigger, we have ID, and I'm going to include that in my endpoint here. Then some standard things to include in the header. We need to have the key value accept, and then in order for the action to know how to return the response, we include this string here that we're requiring the JSON response. Then when it comes to the body, we need to send an array payload, or a JSON payload, sorry. And you can see we have a series of key values and also a key with another array. So the text is, as it would sound or imply, the message that we're looking to save to our comment. So in this case, I've said this is a new item, and I've tagged myself, which is based on this array below. So you can see we have the array, which is mention, and the first object, which is object 0, is myself. Now, of course, you could tag more than one person in this particular text using mention 1, mention 2, mention 3, and simply adding additional objects to this mentions array. So if I go ahead and save this, and we'll go ahead and put it into test mode. And then, of course, in order for us to trigger this flow, we need to go and create a new item. So now that our Power Automate flow is waiting, we'll jump back onto our SharePoint list, and we'll go ahead and create a new item. So I'm going to report that I'm having problems with my microphone. And of course, I really hope that's not the case. I hope you can hear me. And like I mentioned earlier, we could potentially use a condition based on the priority, but at the moment, this is going to trigger on every single scenario. So we'll go ahead and hit save. And if we just jump back onto our flow, we can now see that it's running and it's sending the HTTP request to SharePoint and posting that comment. Now, if I jump back onto my SharePoint list, at the moment, the icon for that comment doesn't appear, but if I go ahead and refresh that SharePoint list, we can now see that we have the comment icon. And if I click on that comment icon, you can see that the comment that I'd included in my Cloud Flow, this is a new item, tagging myself, please get this sorted ASAP, is now added to that list item. And the final part of the process, which I hope is just going to arrive any second now, is the email. So the consequence of creating a comment on a list item is that you will automatically receive an email. And that email is generated by Microsoft Lists, not by Power Automate. And you can see here on the item called I'm having problems with my microphone, there is a comment tagging myself to say please get it sorted ASAP. And if I click on this link here, go to comment, it will open up that item directly. And now I can see everything related to that item, as well as the particular comment and potentially all other comments that are on that list item. Now that we've achieved that, I'm going to go ahead and jump back onto this particular list item, add another comment, and I'm going to show you how you can retrieve the comments from your SharePoint list item using Power Automate. Now the process for this is almost the same, but there is something that I'll highlight to you which is slightly disappointing, slightly more difficult in order for you to get the data that you're looking for. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with an instant flow, and once that's loaded, we'll go ahead with creating our SharePoint HTTP action again. So here we go, SharePoint HTTP, request to SharePoint. And just like before, I select the site where that SharePoint list resides. The method in this occasion is get, as we can see here, and the URI is exactly the same. Again, looking for the list name and the item ID. So we know before that the list name was my issue tracker. And then when it comes to the item ID, because I don't have a dynamic value for this, I'm just going to specify it. So based on item ID 11, I want to retrieve the comments. And so as before, the header and the key is accept, and the response is based on JSON, as we want the values returned to be in the nice JSON payload. And I'm going to hit save. And then we'll go ahead and test it. So because this is a manual trigger, it will automatically run and it will retrieve the comments that are available on that particular list item. And what we're going to do now is we're going to expand that action and look at the output. So if we just expand the output here, we'll go past the header and go into the body. So you can see here we've got the body, the results, and then if we look further down, hopefully we can see the comments. So here we go. This is a new item, and here we have the mention. Now this is the disappointing part, is that unfortunately the mentions are in a separate array. So if you want to see who was mentioned, you need to look at the results here and pick out either the name or the email. And if you have more than one mention, then potentially you have an array of objects with several names included. And so if you wanted to get the complete text value, including who was mentioned, you will have to combine the results array with your text output, which for me, it's quite difficult and maybe something that I'll revisit on another occasion. But ultimately, I wanted to show you that it's indeed possible to not only post comments, but retrieve those comments back from SharePoint list items, or Microsoft list items as they're now more commonly known, using the SharePoint REST API and Power Automate. So now that marks the end of my demonstration. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you followed along. I'll include everything in the description below. And if you haven't already, please make sure that you like and subscribe. And thanks very much for watching. See you again another day. Bye.